The latest episode of Mystery Ghost Stories. You know my name, you know the game. Tonight's episode I thought was actually going to be well known, which it is, cool, which it can be, and informative. It's all those things. But I'm a little let down because I just looked it up and it's pretty much become this tourist attraction for people and like, oh, can you stay a night at the Whaley house? And it's more of like collecting cash as a tourist attraction than anything. But we're going to find out nevertheless. So without further ado, Mystery Ghost Stories, the Whaley House. You may have heard of the Whaley House. I'm sure you have. It's in San Diego, California. I believe the Winchester House is also in San Diego. Correct me if I'm wrong. That would mean two crazy-ass houses are in San Diego. Excuse me. All right, this is going to be taken from the WhaleyHouseSanDiego.com. So, straight from the source. How much do they have on their own crap? We don't know. We're about to find out. America's most haunted house. Excuse me. Over the years, many descendants of the Whaley family lived and died in the house, including Anna and a few of the children, Thomas Jr., Violet, and Francis. Okay, so right off the bat, that's sad. Lady of the house, dead. Little Thomas Jr., dead. Violet, dead. Francis, dead. Although the Whaley family's unfortunate past plays a key role in the house's chilling history, many believed it was destined to be haunted before construction even began. Ooh, ancient Indian burial ground? The eerie legacy of the Whaley house continued to grow as the family was struck with tragic deaths, as well as the paranormal and spiritual encounters that many still discover today. So it doesn't say why it was before the construction ever began, but then it doesn't even explain it. It just says, yeah, the people's deaths were tragic, and it's still haunted today. Why was it doomed from before construction? I'd like a little more details here. The property was, okay, here we go. The property was infamous amongst the community as the site where horse thief Yankee Jim Robinson was publicly executed. Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about this. Good old Yankee Jim haunts the Whaley house. Thomas Whaley was nevertheless unfazed by the location's grim history and continued to build his dream home. So even knowing about the history of the land, Thomas Whaley's like, I don't really care. I need a house for my family and I. We're building this. It wasn't long after the Whaley family moved into the home that sadness and despair were thrust upon them when their young son Thomas, who was only 18 months old, died of scarlet fever inside the house. Oh, that's sad. Poor kid was only, what, a month and like 13, 14, 15, 16, yeah, about a month and a year and 6 months old. Jeez. Baby Thomas, who'd been the first in the family to pass away, had always stayed close by, as reported by many who had visited the home. Stayed close by what? I don't understand what that means. Had always stayed close by. Close by what? As reported by many who had visited the home. They could, oh, maybe like today, I guess. It's worded really weird. So again, don't be mad at me. I'm just reading it how it's written. They could hear tiny footsteps, the sounds of him crying, even giggling when no one was in sight. When no one was in sight. I don't know. I kind of call BS on that. He's like literally a year and 5 months. He's 18 months old. He couldn't walk, probably. I don't know. That's just weird. Thomas, Anna, and several other spirits have also been felt within the home. On the stairwells and on the property, mists, lights turning on and off by themselves, and crystals in the parlor's rooms, lamps swinging without any prompt are all signs that the Whaley house still belongs to many who called it home over the years. And then right below that, they have evening guided tour tickets. See what I mean? It's a goddamn tourist attraction now. Plan your evening guided tour. It's a cash grab. That's why I said to you at the beginning, I'm kind of upset. And that's literally all they have. They have more stuff about come on down than they do with the history of the hauntings of their own freaking house. Okay, hold on. Recognized as America's most haunted house, enshrouded in mystery, ghost hunters flock to the iconic Whaley House, grounds of the original Old Town Gallows site. Join us on Join us on our after-hours tour, chilling paranormal investigation. You'll have exclusive access to the very rooms where the Whaleys lived and died, not accessible to the general public tours. So you see what I mean? You can get a tour of the house, and then you can get a paranormal ghost tour of the house, and they show you rooms that you can't see during a public tour. Freaking money cash grab. Yeah, it just tells you what you'll get if you come and join the investigation. And it even shows you spirit boxes and stuff. This is why I was disappointed. I am really disappointed by this. Let's see if we can find another article that actually has a little more, you know, about experiences. You get a Reddit one. Excuse me, damn it. I'm not sure if Reddit's the most trustworthy site, but we're going to try it. The question that's being asked is the Whaley house really haunted? And you know what? These people might be half assed tool baggers, but I don't really care because I want experiences that people had in this place. So, all right, let's see what we got. I lived on one I lived on one street, Old Town, for many years. I used to have my pugs at night near the Whaley house, the theater, restaurants, etc. Never saw anything unusual. And I always waited and waited because I kind of wanted to see something, but never did. There's one guy that didn't experience it. Yes, caught some pretty interesting proof that couldn't be manipulated by the tour guide on the video with our paranormal equipment. I took my daughter a couple months back as I told her the story about Yankee Jim being hung there. How old's your daughter and why are you telling her about a guy that got hung on the gallows? Or hanged, sorry, hanged. Jim being hanged there in one of the main parlors. I got a terrible sense of dread and I felt the need to leave. It was the oddest thing ever. I also had the smell of cigar by the old church on the corner right in the middle of the street. Here's a quick story that happened to this is what happened to the guy. All right, Reddit. I had a feeling Reddit wasn't going to be anything to go home about. Is the Whaley house really worth it? See what I mean? For all we know, nothing could have happened there. Old San Diego again. These are just websites that are like, come on down. I'm so disappointed. I haven't been this disappointed since the one a couple weeks ago. Shortly after the Whaley family moved in, they told the San Diego Union that they heard heavy footsteps in the house, which they believed to be the ghost of James Yankee Jim Robinson, who had earlier been hanged on the property for stealing a boat. So, if he was the only person that was hanged on the gallows on the site before the house was built, which it clearly sounds like nobody else was, it clearly sounds like he was the only individual ever hanged on the site. And I bet this was public knowledge. So naturally, when the family gets their house built and they move in and they hear footsteps, they're like, oh, I bet it's old Yankee Jim. You know, the only guy ever hanged here before this was a house. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. But how do you account for the rest of the family dying young? That I don't know. Maybe it was just dreaded doom. And then, of course, it's been featured in many television shows and film. I'll read you any if they sound good. In 2012, the Whaley house was featured on the biography channel's The Haunting of Regis Philbin. Huh. Interesting. While filming for a local San Diego morning show in 1964, Philbin visited the Whaley House Museum and claimed to have a paranormal encounter with Mrs. Whaley. Philbin stated, you know, a lot of people poo-poo it because they can't see it, but there was something going on in that house. I don't know how a reliable source I don't know how much of a reliable source Regis Philbin was when he was alive, but that's something. On an episode of MTV's Ridiculousness, host Rob Dyrdek commented that he lived next to the most haunted house in California and would spend nights calling for Old Man Whaley. I can just picture him doing that. Just having nothing better to do than just going outside for hours with his not pit bull, his bulldog or whatever he has there. Just calling for Old Man Whaley. In 2017, the house was featured in the first season, 6th episode of BuzzFeed Unsolved Supernatural for a paranormal investigation. The video has garnered over 12 million views on YouTube as of 2021. I'm doing this video on YouTube, and I'll be lucky if I get one view, never mind 12 million. The whole reason I'm doing this episode is because BuzzFeed Unsolved did it first, so I'm clearly not as good as them, but, you know, that's why we're here, guys. That's why we're here. Yeah, I'm just really disappointed. I can't stress that enough. I don't know why this place has just become a total cash grab, which kind of makes you wonder if if it's really haunted at all. That was weird. My own little. All right, we're gonna go to one more site here, and then let's hope for the best. Despite the fact that a man had been publicly executed on the property, Thomas Whaley began constructing his dream. We already know that. The two-story Greek revival became the heart of San Diego by the 1800s, serving as a theater, courthouse, general store, and government office by day. By night, it was occupied by the wait a minute, what? It was a theater, courthouse, general store, and government office by day. By night, it was occupied by the Whaleys and a phantom guest. So they lived there and they treated it as all these things? I'm so confused. Phantom footsteps throughout the house. Anything else? While they could handle the odd noises, the home's negative energy was far more harrowing. After losing a son to scarlet fever and a daughter to suicide. Oh shit, we didn't see that the first time. That first the Whaley House website didn't even bother to mention the daughter killed herself. That's kind of an important detail. Thomas Sr. packed up and moved his remaining loved ones to a new house downtown. He died in 1890, having never gone back to the home that held his hopes and dreams. The making of the Whaley House is also the making of California with all its gory and restless energy. When Thomas Whaley followed the gold rush and began construction in 1856, he declared, "My new home, when completed, will be the handsomest, most comfortable and convenient place in town, or within 150 miles of here." 50 miles of here. Handsome? Yes. Comfortable? Sure. But the place was also eventually the most haunted spot, not just within the region, but maybe even in the entire state. I don't know about that. California's pretty freaking big. The Winchester House also exists in the same city, never mind the same state. So to say that the Whaley House is the most haunted in the state, I don't even think it's the most haunted in the city. Known as the finest residence in Southern California, the property is a two-story Greek revival home made out of bricks. It was furnished with mahogany and rosewood furniture, exactly what you would expect from a haunted house. But in some ways, the Whaley House is not your typical haunted spot. In 1868, an upstairs bedroom was rented to a local theater troupe where they could perform and entertain the entire town. The show did not last long, however, because the theater operator mysteriously died just 17 days after opening night. Maybe looking to fill some of the empty rooms in their huge home, the Whaleys then turned it into another section of the home into a county courthouse, letting all kinds of convicted criminals walk through its doors. You can't just run such a business. You can't just run such a busy home and expect it to go quietly into the night. Okay. For the people that watch this on the playback, leave a comment for what I'm about to ask. Was it common in the 1800s for people who had and live for people who lived in lavish mansions? Was it normal for them to like rent out their homes by converting them into theaters in courthouses? I've never heard of such a thing. Was this like a common B&B in the 1800s? This is crazy. Hey, honey, I know a couple of our kids just died, but do you mind if we turn our mansion into a theater? To get this place hopping? Yeah, the theater didn't work out very well, did it? Honey, I have another great idea, honey. How about we turn this place into a courthouse? Huh? No one's done that. Nobody on the block can say they have a courthouse in their home. I've never heard. That's really weird. That's really weird. I don't know if this place is haunted, but it had a lot of weird shit in it. And true, criminals. So if some of these people died from the haunted aspect, you had how many convicted criminals walking through your house? How many years later did they die? And they probably, you know what, I'm going to go back to that Whaley house, that courthouse. Yeah, I like that place. I'm going to haunt it. The property remained in the family for generations until the mid 20th century, and it opened its doors as a museum in 1960, which makes sense. But a theater in a courthouse while a family lives inside of it is weird as hell. Since then, countless visitors have been able to witness what many had already experienced, even when some of the Whaleys were still alive. Chilling sounds and apparitions from the home's storied tenants. Unbeknownst to everyone in town, more than just being San Diego's first commercial theater, a county courthouse, and even a general store, the Whaley House would also go beyond to become something else. A haven for all, yes. So you say, but and it just keeps repeating itself. Okay, here we go. As if the death of baby Thomas wasn't enough, she and her husband lost their daughter Violet by suicide when she was just 22 years old. To make things even spookier, young Anne used her father's very own .32 caliber gun and left a very somber suicide note, and her spirit is also one that is often felt around the property. Her death was such a scandal that her sister's fiance called off the wedding, throwing the family in disarray and embarrassment, with a family as well as known as the Whaleys. It was hard not to be able to be the talk of the town. But true to their pioneer roots, the Whaleys show no signs of hiding from the public. Even almost 100 years later, visitors often see lights turning on and off, mysterious mists around the house, and chandeliers swinging ominously. Ever hungry for attention, Whaley House continues to be a San Diego cornerstone and a character on its own right. The house almost seems to have a life of its own, and not in a good way. And yeah, it gives you the list of places of why it's a ghost town. Why it's a ghost house. So yeah, I don't know. I'll be totally honest. Here are my thoughts on the Whaley House. From my first read, it sounds like a total cash grab. I think they're trying to bank off the history. They're just assuming that because so many people died in the house, that it's haunted. Maybe you've experienced a couple things, but nothing to enough to substantially call it the most haunted place the most haunted house in America. I don't know if I believe that. I'd need to see some like videos and proof and stuff. I don't know. That's just me. What are your thoughts? Has anyone been to the Whaley House? I'd love to hear your experience. Um, but yeah, because I first read that it was a cash grab, it just really threw me. So I don't really think that it was. I'm not saying that I don't think it's haunted. I think it might be, but it's not as haunted as people are making it out to be. So it doesn't get the right to be called the most haunted place in all of California. Not even in America, not in California, not even in San Diego, because I'm pretty sure the Winchester House is in San Diego. This has been Mystery Ghost Stories, excuse me, the Whaley House. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like on YouTube for those that watch it on YouTube on the playback. And do stay tuned next week as I will be back for another episode and I will be discussing the Myrtle's Plantation. This I've watched a couple episodes of documentaries on the Travel Channel about this, so hopefully this one will be a little bit more convincing than the Whaley House. For Mystery Ghost Stories, I'm Justin Bienvenu.